Hi, I'm Doug King with Presence, and it's my pleasure to be here in New York today with Adam Bucko, who is the co-founder of the Reciprocity Center. And Adam is also a co-author, along with Matthew Fox, of a dynamic new book called Occupy Spirituality. And today I really want to say thanks to you, Adam, for
Well, thank you.
Our
Thank
pleasure. And right off the bat, I think it would help our listeners and the people in Presence to understand a little bit about your background and the Reciprocity Center. Can you give us a brief overview of that?
So the Reciprocity Center was started by my friend Tas Tagore and myself in 2005. And it's an organization that works with homeless youth of New York City, so kids who live on the street. And we help them to essentially transform their lives, to heal from all of their trauma. We help them to discover a sense of a calling, and then give them tools so they can translate that inspiration that they feel within their lives into a sustainable life, sustainable job, and something that can look like a good life, you know, where they are happy, they make enough money to have a decent apartment, and also where they can make a contribution to this world.
And obviously that's got the spiritual component to it that in different ways led you to co-author this book with Matthew Fox on Occupy Spirituality, meaning that I understand that spirituality is at the core of this transformation work you're doing with these kids.
Yes, absolutely. At least 50% of our work is focused on that, on personal spiritual transformation. So we use tools from different traditions that can be helpful to our kids. A lot of our work is really about helping them to discover their sense of calling, their vocation. And so we use contemplative methodologies to guide them into that space of receptivity and openness where they can begin to feel that inspiration arising within their hearts. And then once they feel it, once they know what it is, that's when we get into practical things, such as, you know, how to connect them to leaders from the industry of their choice so they can learn all the practical and business skills that can enable them to take this idea that is so strong into, you know, a job. Maybe some of them want to start an organization or a program. All of those take concrete skills. So yes, spirituality is at the center of what we do, but our work is not detached from the world. The goal is to wake people up to their inner vocation, their inner calling, and then help them to fully enter the world from that place of passion and compassion, you know?
And so in this way, really, as we think about it at Presence, spirituality is integral, meaning that we would not separate one's vocation from one's spirituality. My vocation, or what I feel is the calling of my vocation, is the call of the Spirit within me.
Absolutely. In fact, I mean, vocation is a doorway into spirit, so to speak, and vocation takes you into the source, and then you know, the source expresses itself through your vocation as you are expressing it in the world. So yes, it's very integral, and all components of one's life have to be included in it, because you know, in the past maybe it was okay for someone to, you know, go into a cave and hang out there for a very long time. Now we need, you know, we live in a world that, I mean, there's so many crises, you know, happening in our world. So we need people who can essentially experience that deep sense of spirit, be transformed by it, and then become a healing presence in the world.
Yes, and so this led to this work that you did with Matthew Fox, and obviously you were seeing something happening in this world, and something that the younger generations especially seeing, not that it's specific to younger generations. I belong to a generation that's a few generations now removed from that time of life, and yet we have, and I have, my family has a very much an interest in these kinds of spiritual transformations within the world. But can you give us a little bit of an overview of some of the principles behind Occupy Spirituality?
Well, so first of all, Matthew has been a mentor of mine and a friend of mine for many years. And one of the reasons why we decided to do this book together is because we began seeing new spiritual impulses that were happening in the younger generation. And we felt that it would be useful to name some of those impulses in the form of a dialogue between two different generations. Because we feel that, the young and the old and whoever is in the middle, all of us have to bring whatever we have into the table and share our gifts, so to speak, and figure out, what's the next thing to do. And so, for me personally, one of the inspirations behind this book was some of the homeless kids who come to the Reciprocity Foundation when Occupy Wall Street happened. Some of those kids decided to leave their shelters because they felt that they were not receiving anything life-giving from those shelters. In fact, they felt oppressed. They felt like they were part of a prison system. So when Occupy happened, they were very inspired by what they saw at Zakoti Park, and so they decided to leave those shelters and go to Zakoti and live there with those other occupiers and essentially try to create a world that works for all, not just for the 99%, not just for the 1%, but for all, including the homeless kids. And so they went there, and naturally Zakoti was organized into small communities where groups of friends would gather together. And the principles behind that occupation, were things like direct democracy. What does it mean, to embrace that principle? Essentially, it means that, that we make all of our decisions based on what emerges out of our dialogues. So we begin to relate to each other in such a way that wisdom can emerge through everyone who participates in the dialogue, in the community. And so that experience of relating to each other in such a way, where everyone's gifts are welcomed and valued, and where everyone sees that they can actually find something within themselves that is useful for this community of friends, and that the community cannot go on without their gifts. That was a life-changing experience for those kids. In fact, I've been to monasteries, I've been to many different places that professionally do spirituality, but I don't think I've ever seen the type of transformation that I saw happening there in that particular occupation, with homeless kids. I mean, I've seen kids who were able to let go of their substance abuse, kids who literally were transfigured into new kinds of people, And of course, while some people are saying that the Occupy is over, I think that Occupy is actually stronger than it's ever been, because now all of those people, or at least some of those people, are quietly working on creating communities that are based on these principles of mutual care and direct democracy, and are slowly turning those experiences, those transformative experiences, into something that could have some structures that could enable them to essentially, build forms and institutions that can be transformative.